Gears 5. This is, well, technically the sixth Gears of War game. They've decided to drop the of war, so we can no longer get it confused with the other GOW game. And they have kind of taken it in a new direction, but not really. So leading up to this, I think a lot of people were like, how come they're not really showing a lot about like what the campaign of this game is and stuff like that? Like, they totally skipped over it at E3. They focused on like the escape mode, multiplayer mode, and stuff like that. And I'm sitting here like, I want to know what the campaign is like. I want to know what the story is. I want to know how they're mixing that up, because for me that is like, it's both the cover shooting in Gears is like the staple, but at the same time it's starting to get a little long in the tooth. Especially I felt that way with Gears 4. Like I got through that game, but it was by the end of it was definitely getting very monotonous. But this one is trying to mix it up a little bit. For one, they're trying to focus more on characters and story and actual lore of the world of Gears of War, a lot more than the previous trilogy did. And I think for the most part they're doing a pretty good job of it. But probably the biggest thing that they added in here is open world-ish sections, where you're kind of sailing around on a skiff on ice and snow, and you actually find like side objectives and side areas to do things in. And I guess I'll leave that as the opening, and we can start talking about what we like and dislike about it. Anyone want to jump in and start us off?
Actually, I've never really been a Gears fan. I was kind of onto it from the start. It's like I see what things you've cribbed from other games, and then just kind of made it brown. I'm a fan now. I like this a lot more than I did any of the others. I really didn't take to any of the others. I find it's a lot meatier than the others. It feels a lot more solid, because there's always a disconnect with me when you play Gears. The size of the guys and the way they slam themselves around and kind of, ramming your shoulder into the covering.
Yep.
And it was that rinse and repeat that I never really enjoyed. What I find this game does is it opens it up, and it makes kind of not just sticking to cover a viable combat option, which I never felt it used to do. Kind of cover, get to other cover, but this kind of you get a chance to really engage in combat a lot more without getting absolutely beasted. I really enjoy that about that. I like the open world. I understand they're a little bit divisive. I really like the open world thing. It gives it a nice texture to it. It gives it a nice break of pace, because obviously Gears can be kind of slight arena, corridor towards the next arena, and then kind of sort of thing with the campaign.
It's very linear, very just move forward.
Yeah, and the dialogue is said in those pathways to get to the next kind of area. This kind of feels a little bit, even when you're not in the open world sections, there feels like a little bit more kind of, you can wander around a little bit more between you to look for parts for your new thing. What's it called? Jack,
yeah,
your
the robot.
Your drone, yeah. So you get a chance to look around and find these files and all this stuff that I think I would have only really got from the novels and stuff like that, all this kind of extra context to the wars and stuff like that. I really quite like it, actually. I think it's very good. Very good game. I really enjoy it.
I'm pretty much with you on the slight changes they made to gameplay. Like, they didn't completely rewrite the book on the cover shooting, but they did, like you said, make being able to run around outside of cover not a death sentence, essentially, because that's what it was previously. And especially near the end of Gears 4, they started making a lot of the cover be destructible. So you'd be hiding behind it, and then the enemy would destroy the cover, and then you'd have to find another piece of cover, and you'd constantly be fighting with like your AI teammates and stuff like that over cover and stuff like that. It just didn't feel good. Like it never felt like satisfying to play for long periods, for long stretches of time. Like you started seeing all of the problems pretty quickly when you were playing it. But yeah, this is like when you playing as Kate, you feel like you're a little bit more nimble. Like you have a little bit more like the dodge roll is pretty effective. And
stealth is effective.
Yeah, there's actually stealth. Yeah, it not. Works. Yeah, it works, but it's only to get you to a certain point before the action pops off to kind of even the odds a little bit. So like the Jack robot, you actually get upgrade abilities for him along the way, and one of them is a cloak, so you can become invisible for a short period of time, and that'll help you avoid detection in certain areas and stuff like that. So yeah, stealth is there. If you move too quickly, the enemies will detect you, so you gotta kind of, there isn't like an actual stealth button. You just walk slower as you're approaching them, and then you have like a insta kill from behind the back kind of deal.
There's a cool little set piece earlier in a hotel with like zombie robot type things, inactive zombie robot type thing. That's when it works well, when it's put within kind of a set piece.
Yeah, well, that's
when I like it the most.
Don't worry, they reuse that.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, that's not really a set piece. That ends up being something that comes up a bunch of times. Yeah, so like the first act of this game, you're actually still playing as JD Phoenix, Marcus Phoenix's son, the main character of the first game, who's a shitbag. I don't think there's any like debate over that. He's Marcus Phoenix's son, so how much, like, what odds do you have that you're not going to be a shitbag? But he kind of doubles down on it in this game. But for most of the game, you play as Kate, who was in your squad in Gears 4, and she has like some sort of like generational connection to the Locust in some way, and that's kind of like what you're trying to figure out throughout the campaign of this game. Is at the end of Gears 4, Gears 4 ends kind of abruptly, but it does have a conclusion. Like, it isn't like a huge cliffhanger or anything like that. The second half of that game is you trying to get to Kate's grandmother, I believe it is, who has been kidnapped by the Locusts. And when you get there, you find that she is actually being used by the Locusts as like some sort of power source, or her abilities are being used to help control the Locusts. And she gives you this medallion when she dies, and the rest of it kind of leaves off with like, and next time we're going to figure out what Kate's connection is to the Locusts and stuff like that. And they definitely do some of that in this game, to kind of show your connection to the Locusts. There's something's afoot, let's say. I won't get into too many spoilers, but that's pretty much the crux of the story. And I think in terms of like the new cast, Kate's probably the one that I'm glad that they went with, as opposed to another game playing as JD. Because like I said, JD sucks. He's like a really, as far as I could tell right now, there's no redemption arc on him. He just keeps getting more and more of a dick. And yeah, they kind of, like I said, they get into a lot more of the lore and the backstory of the world of Gears of War, which was kind of touched upon very little bit in the previous games, but is they're getting more into now, and they're really laying into like COG is a bad organization, and they act like they're doing it for the good of humanity or whatever, but they're actually very corrupt, and they're doing all of these like weird experiments, and definitely not on the level that you may or may not have thought they were right along. I mean, they kind of been alluded to that throughout the series, but now they're really delving into it. Yeah, I think they do a good job of mixing the new characters with the old characters, like not being too overbearing with the old characters like Marcus and Baird, and letting the newer characters kind of have their moments as well. Yeah, so back to the open world a little bit. I know, Leigh, you said you thought it was okay, and I think for the most part, I think it's okay too. It's just a little strange that it is so empty. Like when you're going around in the skiff, there's literally nothing to do between the points you're going to. Like you'll pull over, and there'll be a very clear like flag on a stick waving, saying, "Hey, there's something to do here." You pull over, you get out. You and Dell, who is your the other character that's with you for the majority of this game, and then Jack the robot is with you too. And then you go in, like literally go into a more traditional Gears of War level where you'll have your cover points, and there'll be enemies, and you'll fight through that. You'll get some sort of reward out of it, like a upgrade for Jack or something like that. Then just get back on the skiff, and you go to the next zone, and I don't know. It's weird. It's like
It
it's
feels
not.
almost like Rage, like where you could drive around, but then when you got to a point where you could go explore, it kind of like, all right, you have to get off the skiff. You have to go through this little tiny area, and then boom,
Yeah,
here you have this semi-openish area.
yeah. It definitely feels a little bit like you raid the Rage 1 or Rage 2.
I guess a mix of both because they
Yeah, I
kind
guess
of both
both.
did the same thing. So just like the general concept of having an open world, but then your side areas are blocked off from being truly
Yeah,
open, if that makes sense.
yeah. But I mean, Rage 2 and the first Rage at least had stuff in that open area,
Yeah, they definitely
which
had a
and
lot
I don't.
more. But as far as like
Yeah,
base theory of it,
I don't know if that's even better or worse though, because the way that especially Rage 2 did it felt like very unnatural. It felt like, why are these people just randomly out here in the middle of absolutely nowhere
hmm
fighting? Um, so like not having that, at least I wasn't distracted by that.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, I don't
It,
know.
it,
It's strange. It's a hard thing to do, I think, to have random encounters in an open area feel natural. And I think maybe that's the decision they made, was like, we can't nail this, so instead of making it feel very weird and very out of place, we just won't have anything going on in the open
hmm
world, and it'll be like a frozen like death tundra, and then you'll just have these little offshoots. um
hmm
well, I will say that kind of without spoiling anything for anyone, it's not the only time you get to go into an open world section. You get to do it in different environments. And in the second environment you'll go to, the second open world section,
mhm.
it's there's a lot more environmental danger on the skiff as you're going through. So there's more stuff and more action when you're on the skiff.
Okay.
As think kind of without trying to get too spoilery, think Mad Max when the environment starts to play against you a little bit, and you have
Okay.
to try and navigate the world a little bit more. So there's a little bit more to do when you, as opposed to just going to the next kind of area where you find something or don't.
Okay.
So it does make it a little bit more interesting, and kind of it the environment does play a little more havoc with you, and the kind of the weather and stuff like that. So
Okay.
there is more to do later. It does get a bit more action packed in the open world
Okay.
when you're traveling from A to B. So
Mhm.
Yeah, it does pick up.
And like initially, I felt okay about them littering the jack upgrades here and there, but now I think there's too many of them. Honestly, I think there's just like it's for one, it's like pretty much the only collectible outside of like a couple of documents and maybe a cog tag here or there. Um, and you're just getting them everywhere. It's almost like they did like a second pass and were like, oh, let's put one there, let's put one there, let's put one there, oh, in there.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh,
And
break this box open, you get 5 of them. There you go.
Yeah, and it's always the same animation where you pick it up and you put it away. And yeah, I feel like there's maybe a little bit too much of that. Like we were talking about Borderlands 3 and how it's good that it rewards you going off the beaten path, but at least in there you're getting a variety of different guns. For here, it's like literally the exact same thing, and I think I'm still in that second act, and I feel like I've probably picked up like 50 of those upgrade things already. So I think I wish they would have done a little bit more variety with that, or trimmed them down a little bit or something. I don't know. It just seems a little. It's like gets to a point where it's like, oh, another jack upgrade. Here we go.
Yep. And then I forget about them. Like I think,
sometimes I forget about them too. And then
yesterday I had like 30 of them, and I was like, oh.
Oh, nice.
And there's no like progression either. So like you have like, so one's 5, one's 10, one's 15, one's like 25 or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
You can pick any one of those upgrades you want. You don't have to get one and then the next one and the next one. You could just go for whatever one you want there.
Oh, really? I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
So if you want to go for the 25 one right away, you can just do that?
Yeah, you could save up and grab that one. Because I was like, oh, what's this? Oh, I can click upgrade? Oh, it upgraded?
Oh,
okay,
cool.
Yeah,
some of them are good. Some of them, I feel like I got an upgrade for the flash bang kind of ability that is supposed to freeze the enemies, but I'm not really seeing it working. I don't know. Maybe I'm not doing it against the right enemies or something like that, but it just hasn't been working that well when I thought it would be something like super useful.
I use the shock trap.
Yeah, the shock trap's really nice.
With that I use the shield that he kind of gives you, that like little like 10-second of invulnerability.
Oh yeah, the stim or whatever.
Yeah.
I use that for a while. I mean, there are some moments in the game where it makes you use certain abilities, like you'll have to use that stim to get through like poison gas or something like that.
Yeah.
So, and they're super easy to change out too. You don't even have to go into the menu. You can just hold the left bumper and then cycle through them.
Yeah. I think for like on PC, it's just like you hold the T or something, and it'll pop the menu up, and you can just go up and down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, what do you guys think of the slower moments, like that moment, like when you first get to that like outskirt camp and you're walking through it? Do you think that was effective, or was it not like what you're really expecting from Gears of War?
I don't know. It was something that, like, for me, because like I didn't really play 4. The last time I really played was 3. So it felt kind of weird, but like I understood what it was doing, like trying to give you more of that visual of how the outside world and how they see you. Like,
Yeah.
I think maybe it was a little overplayed for like how long it actually was, that entire walk.
Yeah, it was a pretty. I feel like it ended up being just as long as I thought it was going to be. Like I didn't feel like if it had been like one more step, I would have been like, oh come on. But I guess there was enough to kind of bring you along. And again, you were picking up all those upgrades for Jack along the way.
That walk, and then you're checking all these side areas. So I think the more of the part of that was like the walk part wasn't bad. It was just constantly hearing all these people berate you so much at every single turn. You're like, I just want to look here, dude. It's cool.
Yeah.
I just want to
steal this Jack upgrade from you. No big deal. Just chill out. But yeah, like that's kind of like what I was saying with like they're trying to show you a little bit more of the world of Gears as opposed to just the action part of it and Locust versus Cog and stuff like that. And I think they did a pretty good job there. And then I think it's cool how you kind of turn face and then that area you just walked through, you're now fighting through. As you're like in reverse. I thought that was pretty cool.
It was cool, and especially because they were still like, "Hey, thanks for helping us, but we're still shady about you."
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like, "Oh shit, help us! All right, cool, you're helping us. This is awesome." It was still like, it still made you feel like, "All right, yeah, you're helping because that's what you feel you have to do, but we don't want you to."
Yeah. Or we don't need you to, basically. We can take care of ourselves.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. And then like you said, like some of the side stuff and diving into has been one of the things I like, especially like once you come up to the next act, it gets into like different parts of stuff and yeah, it's been super enjoyable. Like coming back to Gears after being gone from it for so long.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So I guess we could touch on the multiplayer a little quickly here. The three of us tried to get into a campaign, a 3-person campaign that first night, and it did not go well. That
was the early access time, so we can kind of give it good.
Yeah, so Game Pass Ultimate got it technically unlocked Thursday at 9 p.m. And we tried to get on right then, and it was not working. And then for the next day or so, Xbox Live was having all sorts of problems. And then it was that night we ended up actually getting into a match, right? The next night.
Yeah, we were able to get in and play through Friday night. Thursday we had started, and then because me and you were playing on PC, and then we had started to lose Leigh, it would bring him in, kick him out, bring him in, kick him out, and then...
No, that was the
second day.
That was the second day? Yeah, we never even got connected happened the first day.
Oh.
No.
We only got to the training section. The only thing we managed to...
Oh, yeah, that's right. The first day was going through all the training.
And then I played a little bit of the campaign after we were like, oh, this isn't going to work. Then the next night we tried and we were able to get connected, but it kept disconnecting. Leigh was the one that was getting mostly disconnected, but Derrick, you got disconnected a few times from me, and the Xbox Live problems were still going on. So that was a little bit of a bummer. But we did end up playing a couple of chapters without running into too many issues. And yeah, it seems like the co-op campaign is really fun for 2 people.
Isn't it though, Derrick?
Yeah.
Oh, it was great, especially when you were like, okay, I'm going to play this robot, and then it drops everybody, and we come back in, and now Leigh is our lovely robot.
Oh, I know. I'm aware.
Leigh, you'll always be Jack in my heart.
Yeah.
Look at it this way, now I'll catch you.
He's always Jack in your heart. So if you don't know, if you play 3-player co-op in this campaign, the 3rd player is Jack the robot, which is this little guy that hovers around and can go pick up ammo for the other guys and weapons. Really, really great, really fun. But no, actually, the farther you get into the game, you upgrade him, and he does actually become pretty useful. I feel like he'd be way more useful as something like one of the players can control, though. Like, I don't think there's a scenario in which a player-controlled Jack would be able to fulfill all of the things that it needs to fulfill when you need to fulfill it. You'd have to have like some sort of like hyper knowledge of everything that's going on in order to like really pull being Jack off.
Yeah. We'll navigate it right.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like, Leigh, you were trying your best, but it was not always working out.
No, it's not very easy to see what you. I felt like you could see what I needed to do before I could icon-wise. It will tell you where to go, and it doesn't always show up
Yeah.
what to touch and where to go and what to press until you're right on top of it, which is a bit of a bummer when you're it's not as intuitive.
Right.
I mean,
and it's
once you get more powerful, you can actually and your shock actually damages as opposed to just stun people. He does get more useful, but yeah, it's you couldn't play solely as Jack, put it that way.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I think it's very useful in like single player. Jack's very useful, and that's because you can kind of use him strategically, like, lay this trap specifically here because these enemies are going to run through this choke point, whereas it may be harder for the person to kind of assess that situation from the point of view of the person hiding behind cover or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's weird. Weird that they made the third person co-op be Jack, but
especially without like a way to easily switch between characters. Like, it might have been like, cool, okay, you have these three people.
You can do that on the main menu, like before you load up the game.
Yeah, but like while you were.
Well, yeah, I mean that was because we had the disconnection. Like, if that hadn't happened, we would have just chosen our characters at the beginning, and everyone would have known going in who is who. But because we had the disconnection and it filled in the roles as you rejoined the game, you guys get switched.
Yeah, no, but like what I was saying was like while you were playing, if you could switch between the two, so like, okay, we're gonna play for this long thing, and then we can rotate through who's Jack, all right? Like,
oh yeah,
yeah, like something like that where you could kind of like quick swap between who's who.
Yeah, I guess that would make a little bit more sense. That way, one person doesn't have to be Jack the whole time.
Yeah, because they have like a feature that like in Divinity, because we were playing with like three people, so like there's always four characters with you, but then you could like assign like the character to like somebody. So like I could control him. Okay, somebody else wants to use him. You could switch it over to that person.
Yeah. Yeah. So outside of co-op, how's the general multiplayer been, like competitive or online?
Yeah, so I was playing some deathmatch. It definitely got better because, like I said, they were having connection issues all over the place. But like I'd say, coming into like Monday, I dove back into it a little bit for a couple hours playing, and it's Gears multiplayer. They had some like new features in it. Like you could like one of the issues I was running into was like, why do I keep dying? And it turns out you can shoot out the ice on like the snow map, and the person will fall in there or start taking like rabid damage. But yeah, it's pretty much the same old Gears multiplayer.
That's a huge pain in the ass even in the single player, honestly. when those like drop shot guys are taking out the ice right underneath you and you instant die.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
Man, I can't.
I mean, it's cool when you're doing it to the enemy.
Yeah. Yeah, until it happens to you and you're like, oh.
Yeah. Oh, fuck this. So you've only played deathmatch. You haven't checked out like the horde or that escape mode.
Yeah, I didn't get to hop into those two modes, so maybe next time I'll make sure to jump into that and give some updates on that.
Yeah. All right. Before we move on, real quick, there have been some weird performance issues on PC. At least for me, I think Derrick has kind of got himself squared away at a pretty high, consistent frame rate. but at first it was a little rocky for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was jumping around a lot, and like I can notice like some of the lag and stuff until I finally got like a bunch of different things figured out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, I'm still not able. As far as I know, I wasn't able to like keep real consistent 60. It would drop, especially when new areas would load in. There'd be kind of like big giant drops, but there would also be drops even just in like intense combat, which doesn't make any sense because I have like a latest i7 processor, RTX 2080. Not a low end PC at all. And like the benchmark tool that they have showed a pretty consistent frame rate. But I have this other issue, and this issue also affected me being able to play Forza Horizon on PC as well, where I have my computer set up in a way where I mirror my primary display also onto my TV, so I can switch between the two. Sit in front of the monitor when I want to, and then play like something like Gears, where you play with a controller on your TV. And it works great for pretty much everything, except these two Windows Store games, where when you have it mirrored, it locks the frame rate at 20 frames per second.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's just straight up, it hard locks it at 20 frames per second. And it's not even like it does it immediately. Like when I launch the game, it will go through like the opening like studio credits and stuff, and that'll be at 60, and then like say about 10 seconds into that, it'll hard cap it at 20, and it won't go out of that. And like I'll run the benchmark tool, and it'll say like my GPU is pumping out this many, like 60 frames, the CPU 60 frames, and then it says like the final score, which is like the frames that are actually going to your display, it'll be like way down at 20. So I don't know like where the problem is, like what the issue is. It's definitely not a hardware thing. I think it's the way that the game is programmed. Like weirdly enough, I can switch it between full screen and windowed, and that'll fix it. Of course, I'll have this tiny little window of the game in the middle of my screen, which is not great. But that for some reason will then allow the game to run at the proper frame rate. But as soon as I do full screen, it goes back down to 20. And it has something specifically to do with the mirroring between the TV, and it's not something I can just easily turn on and off. Like I could go into my settings every time I wanted to play Gears and disable one of the displays, but it's kind of a pain in the ass to go in and do that, because then it just screws up all of my desktops and stuff like that. So it's really not an ideal situation. I mean, luckily this game runs, looks, and plays very, very well on Xbox. So I've been playing it on Xbox One X. So not having the higher end PC version hasn't been that big of a deal, but I really would have liked to be able to, enjoy it on there, because I do have the ability to do that. It's just strange, and I hope it's something that they kind of figure out along the way, because it's been 2 games now that it's been an issue with. And I wonder, the only thing I'm wondering is if it's also affecting the Steam version, because this game is on Steam, and the player bases, they're mixed. So sometimes you'll have games that launch on multiple storefronts on PC, and the player base for multiplayer will be siphoned off. Like only Steam can see Steam people, only Uplay can you see Uplay people, and stuff like that. But this one, as far as I know, that they're mixed. So if you're playing on PC, you may be playing with people who bought it on the Windows Store and people who bought it on Steam. And I'm wondering if the Steam version has this issue, because I've never had a problem with it with this game I bought on Steam. And I wonder if it's just like a specific Windows store, Windows app kind of problem. It's a weird one, and I know it's not gonna affect a whole lot of people out there, but if you are having a problem with it and you do something similar to me where you have a mirrored display, this could be the reason why you're having problems with it. Yeah, I think that's gonna wrap up Gears. Anything else we want to mention before we move on?
I think we covered it pretty well.
All right. So that's Gears 5. A pretty good Gears of War game. Thank you for joining us in this very special episode of Voxel Viewpoint. If you'd like to hear or see more, please consider subscribing to us on your favorite podcast app, subscribing to us on YouTube, or visiting voxelvoice.com, where all of our great content comes together in one place. Also check out the Voxel Voice Facebook group, where you can join in on the discussion with a great, like-minded community.